Welcome back, church, and here is our daily devotional for Saturday, June 6th. I mentioned in the last video that I have the conference meeting for the Keystone Conference of the United Church of Christ, and that'll be over at Millersville University. So for Sunday, there's actually going to be a pre-recorded message that will be playing, but also wanted to give you a heads up that Sunday after church, we're going to be doing a reception for Shirley Miller. Shirley is going to be moving from LifeQuest to a facility closer to family in New York. But she'll be hanging out with her son Ken after church for a little while. If you would like to check in with them, you're invited to come back to the Connections Cafe and enjoy some time with them. I'm going to be doing a little message for Shirley before the sermon and telling some stories about her as well. But I hope you can join us if you are around. And so we are stepping into the conclusion of chapter 8. We're going to be focusing on verses 10 to 17. And this is a piece that Towner is stretched by a little bit. So the portions that we're going to be focusing on are some of his commentary on the section as a whole, and then as a conclusion. And we'll get into some stuff. So we'll begin with our NRSV. Then I saw the wicked buried. They used to go in and out of the holy place and were praised in the city where they had done such things. This also is vanity, because sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily. The human heart is fully set to do evil. Though sinners do evil 100 times and prolong their lives, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God, because they stand in fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, neither will they prolong their days like a shadow, because they do not stand in fear before God. There is a vanity that takes place on earth, that there are righteous people who are treated according to the conduct of the wicked, and there are wicked people who are treated according to the conduct of the righteous. I said this also is vanity. So I commend enjoyment. For there is nothing better for people under the sun than to eat and drink and enjoy themselves, for this will go with them in their toil through the days of life that God gives them under the sun. When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, how one's eyes see sleep neither day nor night, then I saw all the work of God, that no one can find out what is happening under the sun. However much they may toil in seeking, they will not find it out, even though those who are wise claim to know, they cannot find it out. And some commentary. Even though Kohelet closed the preceding unit, and that what we did yesterday, on the note that wickedness cannot be guaranteed to pay, he is not prepared to say that righteousness will do so either. The section that follows in verses 10 to 17 includes a complex interplay between the accepted wisdom set forth in 12b to 13 and his own profound doubts that the mechanism for rewarding wickedness according to its just deserts is in place. Although all of the themes in this passage have been stated before, it brings them together in a combination that sets forth with considerable pathos, with considerable feeling, the failure of retributional theology to operate dependably, the impossibility of discerning the reason why this should be, and the retreat into the by now familiar vice to eat, drink, and be merry. That is Kohelet's only positive recommendation. The passage closes with Kohelet's familiar diatribe against the claims of sages to have penetrated to the heart of life and to the work God is doing in the world. And then let me go ahead and do the little note. See Job 12:2, where Job sardonically mocks his friends for claiming to know such things. It is a canon of the preacher's faith that God's actions in history cannot be discerned. So yeah, he gets into some dark places there, and not in a bad way, but yeah, in the trick of exploring the reality of human life. This section Peterson entitles "One Fate for Everybody." He does a little, not a little. He does an asterisk break, and it was that part at which you heard that this is something that happens under the sun, that happens all the time. And yeah, you'll hear his variation. And that was at verse 14. One fate for everybody. One time I saw wicked men give a solemn burial in holy ground. When the people returned to the city, they delivered flowery eulogies, and in the very place where wicked acts were done by those very men, more smoke indeed. Little pause. So a part of Towner's commentary, because that first verse has a little mark of Hebrew uncertain, and Towner talks about that likely that verse should be understood in the context of a city mourning someone whom they knew to be wicked, but still saying positive things about the person. So interesting translation by Peterson there. We continue with verse 11. Because the sentence against evil deeds is so long in coming, people in general think they can get by with murder, which sets a little different context for what we just heard. Even though a person sins and gets by with it hundreds of times throughout a long life, I'm still convinced that the good life is reserved for the person who fears God, who lives reverently in his presence, and that the evil person will not experience a good life. No matter how many days he lives, they'll all be as flat and colorless as a shadow because he doesn't fear God. Here's something that happens all the time and makes no sense at all. Good people get what's coming to the wicked, and bad people get what's coming to the good. I tell you, this makes no sense. It's all smoke. Pastor Nick translation. If you try to figure it out, you're going to be frustrated. So I'm all for just going ahead and having a good time, the best possible. The only earthly good men and women can look forward to is to eat and drink well and have a good time. Compensation for the struggle for survival these few years God gives us on earth. When I determined to load up on wisdom and examine everything taking place on earth, I realized that if you keep your eyes open day and night without even blinking, you'll still never figure out the meaning of what God is doing on this earth. Search as hard as you like, you're not going to make sense of it. No matter how smart you are, you won't get to the bottom of it. Both a hopeful reality check as well as a difficult teaching for those of us who have a drive to understand. So yeah, I'm really enjoying Ecclesiastes. I don't know if it's landing with you, but this has been a good and important journey in the book that, as I mentioned in one of our introductions, that I described as one of the most depressing books of the Bible. Really struggling with meaninglessness, but trying to find purpose and intent and life, as well as presence and being in the midst of all this stuff. All righty. So that's it for today. We will be back with you on Monday as we will be continuing in chapter 9, and we will see you then. Blessings.